much beloved characters that Stan Lee created, and people really hold them so dear to them that you don't want to mess up. And I messed up plenty with the third Spider-Man. So people, hated me for years. They still hate me.
They give you shit for that?
All the time. Yeah.
Why? What do they say?
We hate you.
Just like bouncing around.
Get my head.
You're trash, bro. Excuse me?
Hey, I don't know about you, but I'm all ready to go to review this movie. I've got my Venom shirt all ready to go. Got my Spidey pants on, as you can see. I'm ready to go, so yeah. Let's conclude this trilogy. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Great One channel, and welcome back to our little Spider-Man movie review series, where pretty much I'm going to be reviewing every single Spider-Man movie that has never been reviewed on this channel before, going through the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and the two Amazing Spider-Man films, and that's it. Yeah, I was fucking going fast with that. And the movie I am reviewing today is the final movie in this iconic trilogy. Damn. And it is also the weakest movie in this entire trilogy. Damn. And this is just the one Spider-Man movie where Sony unfortunately got way too out of control, and it's just with this movie and its director. And the movie is Spider-Man 3. Known as the weakest of the trilogy, Spider-Man 3 deals with a lot of studio interferences by Sony Pictures, and because of that, there's just a whole bunch of crammed-in villains and story elements and characters, and people just considered this movie to be nothing more than a big mess. But who knows, guys? Maybe if you just go into this movie and you've never seen it before, and you go into it forming your own opinion and not focusing on other people's opinions, then you might like it. Like, who fucking knows? But yeah, some people just consider it to be, this movie to be the worst Spider-Man movie of all time. It's such a dumb, stupid movie. And some people even consider it to be one of the worst movies of all time. What? Okay, let's not get too carried away, because this is my review, my opinion. So, what did I think of Spider-Man 3? Well, yeah, I think this movie is highly underrated. I think this movie is a lot better than what people say it is. It's just Sam Raimi had a lot of shit to do with this movie. Obviously there was a lot of studio interferences going on behind this movie. Sony Pictures forced Sam to include more villains, such as, of course, the one and only Venom. Because Sony just thought Venom's a very popular Spider-Man villain. It would make them a lot of money, so that's what Sony forced Sam to put Venom in the movie somehow. And Sam Raimi was apparently never a big fan of that character, and he originally didn't want to do anything with the character, and he was just never a big fan of it. So he had a lot to do. He had a bunch of other villains to focus on, Sandman and New Goblin, and a bunch of other story elements and characters and other things he had to focus on. So Sam Raimi had a tough time making this movie, and honestly, it was really tough. So obviously the movie's not perfect, but you gotta applause Sam Raimi for actually making this movie not complete shit. Like, it's actually got some really good stuff in it. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about the characters. Tobey Maguire returns to his role as Peter Parker, alongside Kirsten Dunst returning her role as Mary Jane Watson. And the two of them appear to be in a loving relationship. Everything's going really well, everything's going good, even if they can have a little too much self-confidence with themselves.
Spider-Man gets attacked all the time.
This isn't about you. This is about me.
But this whole self-confidence thing is happening more with Peter. He seems to care a little too much about himself than his own relationship with MJ, and wanting to care about what's going on with her career, and because this whole fame of him being Spider-Man has just gone into his head, and now he just cares too much about himself. And I like what they did with this story with Peter, because it kind of makes him that of course damages his relationship with MJ and just makes it fall apart as the movie continues. But it's also a nice little build up to him getting the black suit, and then him becoming more of a selfish character, and more of a fool of himself. And it's a nice little build up to him getting the black suit and becoming more of this selfish prick. So I like what they did with this different side of Peter, making more of this character just focusing more of himself than others, which I like what they did with that. It was a nice little change to Peter's character. And then we got MJ coming back, and I guess she's a bit of an improvement over the second movie, because in the second movie she was just a complete dick. In this movie she's a little bit better, but I guess she was okay. She was fine. Even if she might have panicked too much and caused a little too much drama and all that. But whatever, we'll get in a little bit about that later. But we'll talk about Harry Osborn being once again portrayed by James Franco, who, after experiencing this...
Bump on the head, I'm as free as a bird. It's a weird feeling not knowing who you are.
Has amnesia. Pretty much he doesn't fully remember everything that has happened in his life. Things like him finding out that Peter is Spider-Man and that Peter has some sort of involvement with his father's death. Which because of this amnesia thing, it kind of brings back Peter and Harry's friendship. In one scene where Peter and Harry are just talking to each other like good friends, you can notice that Harry is wearing the exact same clothes he wore in the first movie when him and Peter were just good friends. And I like that little attention to detail there that Sam did, just making him wear the exact same clothes he wore in the first movie. That was a nice little attention to detail. I really like that. But nonetheless, the whole amnesia thing was kind of pointless, and it kind of led to a bunch of really pointless sscenes, and it was probably the most forgettable story element of the whole movie, and there's a lot of them, obviously, and it was probably the most forgettable one. So I didn't really care about the whole amnesia thing. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really care about it. It was probably the most forgettable story element of the whole movie. And that's pretty much about Harry's character, and we'll talk more about him later. Also we got a new character in this movie, Gwen Stacy. Yeah, Gwen Stacy's in this movie. Do you remember that? Yes, Gwen Stacy's in this movie. They added a new character in the movie, a new love interest for Peter, and they do some stuff with her character. They don't do a whole bunch, and she felt a little crammed in. And I do appreciate Sam trying to fit her into the story, which leads to the whole jazz club scene of her getting humiliated by Peter. And I liked how Sam did try to fit her into the story somehow, which was good. I appreciate Sam for doing that, trying to do that at least. And I do like how he tried to make her have some sort of involvement in the story, which is good. So Gwen Stacy did feel a little bit crammed in. And who knows, maybe that was because of some of the studio interferences by Sony. Who fucking knows? Let's now talk about the villains. Harry Osborn does play a villain in this movie. He is portrayed as the new Goblin, and he's easily probably the most forgettable villain compared to the other two villains. They don't do a whole bunch of his character. Well, I guess he does have a really fun fight, chase scene with Peter in the movie, and it's really cool, which then leads to him getting amnesia for the majority of the movie and focusing on other villains, and then he gets his memories back, and then he has a really, really damn good fight scene between him and Emo Parker, and it's really fucking cool. And he does do some stuff in this movie, but nonetheless, he's kind of the most forgettable villain. Yeah, and he does get involved with Peter and MJ's relationship, and pretty much forcing MJ to break up with Peter and ending the relationship. So, oh no, oh fuck, yeah, ending a relationship, how dare you, go to fucking prison. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, no, I mean, after the big fight between him and Emo Parker, it just leads to him to this. And then after that, just a big final battle with Peter and Harry teaming up together, which was cool, by the way. I just want to say that was fucking really cool to seeing those two come back together. But nonetheless, that was really it with the villain side of Harry, and it wasn't really much. So, yeah. Let's talk about Sandman. The scene of Flint Marko officially becoming Sandman was absolutely beautiful. It was such a beautiful scene with the rocks slowly turning into sand, and then having to slowly watch Flint struggling to stand up because he's all covered in sand. He can't fucking get up, and it's such a satisfying scene to watch, and it was absolutely beautiful. It looked amazing with the sand and everything. It looked fucking amazing. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That's the first scene of him just becoming Sandman. It was just awesome. And yeah, a lot of people have talked about how beautiful that scene is, and I gotta agree, it is a gorgeous looking scene. It's beautiful. And with Sandman's character, he starts off as kind of this random guy trying to save his daughter from some sort of sickness, and he robs banks, becomes Sandman, becomes a villain, and that's when he comes across Spider-Man. A bunch of fight scenes happen, a bunch of really cool fight scenes happen, and then there you go, there's your fucking villain. But then it's revealed, in the middle of the movie, that we find out that Sandman has a deeper connection with Peter and Spider-Man. He is responsible for Uncle Ben Ben's death. He was actually the one who shot Uncle Ben. But at the end of the final battle, we find out that he didn't mean to kill Uncle Ben. And yeah, he pretty much was he's robbing banks and whatever. And literally, the lines that come out of him when he says,
I was scared.
pretty much sums up that he doesn't want to rob banks. He's just doing it in the sake of saving his daughter, but he doesn't really want to do it. But he'll do it just to save his daughter, who unfortunately don't really get any sort of connection with him and his daughter throughout the movie at all. Only like one scene, but that's it. But yeah, oh well, the movie's gotta focus on other shit, so oh well. But yeah, that's little twist that happens at the end. That's kind of felt a little bit out of nowhere. It was like, oh, all right. I mean, I guess he does have some connection to Peter, which is good. But yeah, and the scene with him, Peter giving Flint forgiveness for what he did was kind of a beautiful scene. And it's kind of a running like message throughout this film, or throughout the finale, about forgiveness and all that. So yeah, it was kind of a beautiful scene. And Sandman, overall, he does have some really cool fight scenes with Spider-Man, and with also with Black Suit Spider-Man in this subway, sewers or whatever. It had some really cool fight scenes, and overall, Sandman was an okay villain. He was an okay villain, and he had some cool fight scenes, a little connection with Spider-Man, and it was okay. It was fine. And now we can finally talk about this guy. We can finally talk about Venom. But we'll start off with Eddie Brock. Sam Raimi pretty much envisions Eddie Brock as like this reflection of Peter Parker. He wants to be a photographer, he wants to get with a girl he really likes. There's some things about him that is very familiar to Peter Parker. Except he's more guilty, he cares more about himself, and he's just this more selfish version of Peter Parker. And he's being portrayed by Topher Grace, which, I mean, it's not the best casting choice. I think maybe they got someone else who looked more accurate to how Eddie Brock looks in the comics. I think that would have been a little bit better. Nonetheless, Topher Grace still did a good job, but I think the casting choice maybe could have been a little bit better. But nonetheless, I like how Sam Raimi kind of envisioned Eddie Brock as this like reflection of Peter Parker. Obviously, Sam wasn't a big fan of this character, so he kind of just did like his own version of Eddie Brock. And I do like that, his being a more selfish, more like just asshole version of Peter Parker. I do like the idea. So yeah, it was Eddie Brock in this movie. He was actually, the idea of him being a reflection of Peter Parker was interesting with how Sam envisioned the character. And overall, Eddie Brock wasn't too bad in this movie. He was actually pretty good. So I didn't mind Eddie Brock in this movie. The casting choice could have been a little bit better, but it was okay, and Topher Grace did a pretty good job portraying the character. And now we're going to come down to Venom himself. Now in this movie, I guess we'll talk about the comics. He's obviously very buff looking. He's very tough and strong, and with how buff he is, it kind of made his character look more iconic with his design and stuff. In this movie, he still looks really cool, but he's very skinny. He's a lot more skinny on this movie. He's not as buff as he looked in the comics. And people were really mad about that. But I didn't focus on that too much. I focused on how Venom does end up having a more accurate design in, obviously, Tom Hardy's Venom movie, obviously. But in this movie, I still don't mind his design. The details on his suit and the logo looks really cool. The big-ass eyes. I actually don't mind Venom's design in this movie. I think it looks really cool. And yeah, I'm just one of those people who don't mind the look. And I do like how Sam kind of had him have some really small horror-like scenes with Venom in this movie. I think that was really nice. And Sam has done some horror movies before with Evil Dead. So I really like that. That was really cool. Oh my god, it scared me totally. But yeah, I like how Sam envisioned Eddie Brock in this movie, and I actually didn't mind him in this movie. Same as Venom, maybe he could have gotten a little more screen time, but overall, I didn't mind his design. And he was not too bad in this movie. And obviously, I also kind of like the black suit, the design of the black suit on Peter in this movie. The black suit, the symbiote, the black suit Spider-Man himself. I think the suit looks really cool. Yes, it's pretty much just a recreation of the red and blue suit, just covered in black and with a slightly new logo. That's really it. But I just look at it, I'm just like, that looks so cool. I don't know, just seeing the red and blue suit just turn into full on black. Why does it look so goddamn cool? I don't know why. I like the look of the black suit. Not fully accurate, but I like it so much. It looks really cool. With Peter getting the black suit, that of course leads to
Still got the moves.
So yeah, this scene, and I guess also the jazz club scene, these two scenes are pretty much very completely just memeable at this point, if that's even a word. Everyone just thinks as these two scenes as just complete memes. Everyone just jokes around with these scenes, how hilarious they are, about Tobey Maguire acting like some emo dude walking down the street pointing at women, and it's just everyone's talked about it. Everyone just loves the scene of how dumb it is. For me personally, it is very dumb. I definitely agree with that part, but so dumb that I don't even know if it really works for me. It's just too weird. Just having this alien symbiote, just having Peter do all this like nasty stuff, and here he is being a complete fuckwit, walking down the street, pointing at women and doing these really weird dances. It's so odd. And then it leads to the jazz club scene of him doing more dances. I don't like these scenes. I'm not a big fan of them personally. I've never been a big fan of them. They're just too dumb for me. Yeah, they're kind of funny, just seeing these Tobey Maguire do some weird dances and looking all emo and shit. It's kind of funny, but it's too dumb for me. I just think maybe they could have had more time to do more with this alien, knowing that this is like an alien symbiote making him do this shit is really silly and really dumb to me. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I think they could have used this time to do more like bad shit. And obviously with the jazz club scene, it does end up with a more serious scene with him, starting a fight, and then he ends up hitting MJ, which, it's like a shocking scene. Like, damn, he actually hit MJ. Like, he's always swore to protect MJ, and here he is just fucking hitting her, and she doesn't even know who he is anymore. Like, it's like a pretty serious scene. So I like how the jazz club scene ended, but before that with the dancing and shit, it was just not for me. I was never a big fan of these dancing scenes. Yeah, I personally don't like them, but they're funny and they're memeable and they're all that stuff, but that's just, to me personally, never been a big fan of them. And as a little, I guess, nitpick, more shit going on for MJ and Peter and their relationship and drama going on. And honestly, with how they were betrayed in the second movie, pretty much the whole movie was a whole drama between them and their relationship, and it going on again with the third movie. Honestly, it was quite tiring to see that again. This is just a nitpick because it wasn't like a huge, massive thing in this movie. It was quite a bit of a thing in this movie, but not like big or like how it was in the second movie. In this movie, it just felt, when the whole drama was going on with their relationship, it just felt tiring to seeing that all happen again and all that. But yeah, that was just a little nitpick, I would say. But overall, with the little issues this movie has and the studio interferences and the crammed in villains and all that, this movie didn't break me. I didn't like feel full of this didn't fucking hurt me or any sort of way. This movie didn't. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought I enjoyed this movie, and it didn't break me like some people felt broken from this movie, how disappointing it was for some people. But what did break me? Harry's death scene. Oh boy, that broke me.
I should never have hurt you. Said those things.
None of that matters, Peter.
You're my friend. Best friend.
Broken. Despite its flaws, Spider-Man 3 is a very underrated movie to me. I think there's a lot more effort and stuff that's put into this movie. Sam Raimi obviously had a difficult time making this movie, and there was a lot of studio interferences with crammed in villains and characters and story elements and shit, but I think Sam did the best he could with this movie, and overall, this movie is very special to me, being one of the first Spider-Man movies I'd ever seen, and this was like this used to be my favorite Spider-Man movie, so I guess it's more important to me, and overall, I had a lot of fun with this movie. And would I recommend you guys go check out Spider-Man 3? Well, if you haven't seen Spider-Man 3 and you've seen the first two movies, then yes, go check out Spider-Man 3. Let's see what you think of this movie. It does have it's got a lot of shit going on. If you want to see probably the craziest, this is like the craziest one in the whole trilogy, so you want to check it out, then go check it out. This movie just has a special place in my heart. This is a very special movie to me. It's just one of the first Spider-Man movies I'd ever seen, and made me love the character so much more. We have everything going on in this movie. Look, even if it has a little bit of flaws, it's still a well-made movie. Sam Raimi did the best he could with concluding this trilogy with this movie, and with all Sony tried to do with this movie. He did the best he could, and overall, go check out this movie. It's a lot of fun. And that's it, guys. That's going to be a wrap on my movie review series with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. I've reviewed all three movies now. I hope you guys have enjoyed my reviews and my thoughts about these three movies. I enjoy all three of them. I love all three of them in their own ways. They're all a lot of fun to me, and they really hold a special place in my heart because these movies really did encourage me to love the Spider-Man character so much more. But if you think this is the end of the series, no. If you looked at the intro of the Spider-Man movie review series, anyways, intro, you could see the title. Why does it look so weird? Like, the title looks a little bit, like, weird. Do you see that? Why does it look so off? Yeah, I wonder why.